Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite tanking-ish team in the Bay Area. And on today's episode, we're going to look at the entire Sharks roster, figure out which players are franchise cornerstones, which ones are quality players, NHL players, replacement players, and which players have incomplete grades. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. You can follow along for free wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch this on YouTube as well. Today's a great YouTube day as I have made some slides for you guys today. So make sure you guys are following along. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. And this one is a fun one. Actually, kind of got the inspiration from the idea from a fellow Locked On host, Kyle Krabs, who covers the Dolphins over at Locked On Dolphins. He went through the entire Dolphins roster and kind of has his way of grading their players, looking at their, which players are franchise cornerstones, quality depth pieces, all this fun stuff. And I thought it'd be a fun project to do with the Sharks and kind of see where the Sharks roster currently lies as is heading into the offseason. So I kind of base this going into the offseason. So I have their age for the start of next season, how old they're going to be, what their contract situation looks like. So we're going to kind of dive into the Sharks roster and look at the work that kind of needs to be done here. And then look at the first, we're going to talk about the franchise cornerstone players, the quality players. And so the way I kind of ranked it, right? Franchise cornerstone, those are kind of your special players, right? Those are ones that you can build your franchise around. These are kind of your when you think of the Sharks, these are the players you're going to kind of think about. Your quality players, these are going to be either like top 6 players on basically any type of team, or top end defensemen basically on any type of team. You can pick them up, place them on any given team, and they're going to be able to kind of produce for you. So then the other categories, we have NHL caliber players, like kind of average NHL players. So these are, again, just kind of your average NHL players. They'll play for any team in the league. They might be more of a bottom 6 role, or maybe more of a, just bottom pairing role. But these are just guys who, again, you can drop them in any NHL team, and they are still going to be playing night in, night out. Then we have below average. So these guys are going to be players who are maybe, they'll still play on most teams. Maybe, they kind of are starting to age out. Maybe they're kind of, has to be the right situation, the right role for them. Maybe, they're healthy scratches for some teams. These are just kind of those type of players. Then we have replacement level players. So these are players who are usually kind of maybe AHL, fringe AHL, NHL type. You're kind of your tweener type of guys, or guys who are still kind of establishing themselves, or guys that we're just not too sure of right now. And then you have the final category I have is incomplete. So these guys, we just do not have enough information on them. Most of these are going to be your young guys who are still like on their entry level contract, or the Sharks just acquired them and they're still kind of figuring out their role. Or they've been dealing with some injuries. So for those guys, what I did is I kind of projected where I think they're going to kind of end up among the categories as well. So really excited about this episode. I've kind of thought long and hard about I've reached out and had some another set of eyes take a look at it, making sure I wasn't being, just wanted to be fair to the players. So without further ado, I think we have to get started at the very, very top. So again, if you're watching on YouTube, I made some fun graphics, and I think we know where to start. The Sharks franchise cornerstones, they have one. Erik Karlsson, the defenseman, the start of next year, he'll be 33, 4 years left on his $11.5 million average annual value contract with a full no move clause. This is going under the presumption that Erik Karlsson will be here at the beginning of next year, but going into the offseason, Erik Karlsson is the Sharks' only franchise cornerstone right now. He is a player who is going to win the Norris this year, be the first 100-point defenseman in 30 years. He is the reason the Sharks are, I've said it before and I'll say it again, he's the only reason the Sharks are anywhere near being one of the worst teams we've seen in modern history. Like, he is, he's really good. So Erik Karlsson, he's the Sharks franchise cornerstone right now. That doesn't mean other players can't move up and down. Another guy I'm sure you're probably thinking about, Tomas Hertl. Why isn't he there? If you'd asked me this question last offseason, I think Tomas Hertl's in there. I think his play this year kind of bumps him down. That doesn't mean he can't kind of move back up. Again, these are fluid players, play themselves up and down kind of the slots. And Hertl was the one I kind of thought long and hard about being a cornerstone, but I think his play this year kind of took a little bit of a step back. So I think that is why he's going to be under the next category. And that's quality players. So I have 3 quality players for the Sharks. Again, these are usually like kind of top 6 guys. These are guys who are going to be, they're good players on good teams. So Alexander Barabanov, forward, 29, has 1 year left on his $2.5 million AAV contract. He does have a modified no trade clause. I think it's 10 teams, if I remember correctly. Logan Couture, he'll be 34. He's 34 now, just turned 34. He'll be 34. 4 years left on his $8 million AAV contract with a modified no trade clause. 3 teams. And Tomas Hertl, 29, beginning of the season. 7 years left on his $8.137 million AAV with a full no move clause. Those are the Sharks' quality players. Logan Couture, I think, has really kind of played himself back into this tier this year. Barabanov has established himself with his play this year. Barabanov health, we saw beginning of the year wasn't healthy. End of the year, not healthy. So that's one thing to just kind of keep an eye on Barabanov, but he's been usually a pretty healthy guy since he's been in San Jose. But he's had a couple dings and nicks here and there. But Couture, though, this year, I think really, like I said, established himself as a quality player. Has been healthy this year. Has kind of really helped establish in his offensive prowess again. I talked about it on yesterday's episode how Nico Sturm has allowed Couture to be focused on offense a little bit more compared to what we've seen in other years. Tomas Hertl, again, I think with him, he could play himself back up into being a franchise cornerstone type of player. If he's floating around 75, 80 points next year, kind of has a bounce back season, continues to stay healthy, I think Hertl can easily push himself back into being a franchise cornerstone type of player. I mean, he's going to be with the Sharks for the next several, 7 years. If he doesn't get traded at the end of his contract, but the Sharks are going to build around him, but I just can't put him as a franchise cornerstone player right now, just because there's that special kind of ness with him that's we see with a guy like Karlsson, but we just don't see that with Hertl. So at least as of this year. So before we continue, do need to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. So right now, NBA playoffs are almost here, and now's the perfect time to download the FanDuel app, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets. When you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. So done the easy part, looking at the Sharks. Quality players, looking at their franchise cornerstones. Now we're going to look at kind of their average NHL players. So I have 5 guys in this list. I have 2 forwards, 3 defensemen in here. So we'll start with the forwards. Kevin Labanc. I think Kevin Labanc is an average NHL player. The analytics say he's very good. The eye test at times can say, "What are you doing, dude?" Definitely had his struggles with David Quinn this year and has played really well down the stretch here. I think on most teams, he is a middle 6, if not better, type of player. He has 27, will have 1 year left at his $4.725 million contract going into next year. Again, we've seen Kevin Labanc, especially as of recently, kind of earn the trust, and he's performed well for the Sharks down the stretch here. So it'd be interesting to see what the Sharks do with him if they want to, 1 more year. Let's let this kind of thing ride out, and we can kind of figure it out after next offseason. We trade you during the trade deadline, whatever you want to do with Kevin Labanc. If you want to try to trade in this offseason, et cetera, et cetera. So interesting to see where Labanc kind of fits in with the Sharks going forward, especially again, we have 3 quality forwards, 2 average NHL forwards for the Sharks. Nico Sturm, 28, 2 years left at his $2 million a year deal. Has had a career offensively for the Sharks this season. I don't expect that to continue going forward, but I think his emergence on the third line really allows Logan Couture to be the best Logan Couture that we have seen. And again, Nico Sturm, you saw it, he played 4th line minutes for Colorado Avalanche when they won the Stanley Cup. Like he's an average NHL player. He's, you know exactly what you're going to get out of him. I don't expect, 14, 15 goals again next year, but he could chip in the offense when you need him to, and does everything else, penalty kill, face-off guy. You guys know what you're getting exactly out of Nico Sturm. And I think he's been arguably the best signing my career made this offseason. And he's an average NHL player that you're paying $2 million a year for the next couple of years. So cost controlled, that's not breaking the bank and you know exactly what you're getting from Nico Sturm every night. So consistency with the eye of the Sturm. On the blue line, Matt Benning, defenseman, 29, 3 years, $1.25 million left per year. I think a lot of us were a little surprised by the Matt Benning signing, but again, he just has been in and helped really kind of solidified the blue line for the Sharks. I think this deal is looking to be kind of very much a bargain. I know the 4 years is a little bit of a head scratcher, but he's only 29. By the time this thing expires, he'll be, 29, 30, 31. So 31, 32, basically, by the time this deal expires. And then if you need to move off from Matt Benning, you can move off from Matt Benning. If you need to waive him and bury him in the AHL, it's not going to cost you very much. Gives you some flexibility if you want to trade them. Again, a team can easily fit the $1 million cap hit under their into their cap space type of situation. But he's done a great job at solidifying that right side defense pair after Erik Karlsson. I think Matt Benning shouldn't be on your power play too, but that's more about what the Sharks' other options are compared. It's just asking Matt Benning to do too much. Mario Ferraro, 25. 3 years left at his $3.25 million contract. He's the one I struggle with the most, but I think Ferraro, we've seen a bit better Ferraro this year because I think there's guys like Matt Benning. You've seen some of the other guys kind of step up, and Ferraro hasn't had to take the taxing minutes that we've seen him in the past couple of years. Haven't seen the offensive jump that you would have hoped for. And I think this is just Mario Ferraro, who's going to be a try-hard guy. He's going to give you quality defense. Maybe you're not going to get much from him offensively, but you know exactly what you're getting. You have him in his prime right now. The contract's probably slightly overpaid, but it is what it is. So, and then Marc Eduard Vlasic. So he's a player, if you looked at the last couple years, especially under Bob Bugner, you know, there was questions of, do we waive Marc Eduard Vlasic? You know, he was a below average NHL player, replacement level almost at points, was healthy scratched a couple times, really has found his game this year under David Quinn. David Quinn knows how to coach defensemen. He's just really good at it. So he's 36. He'll be 36 beginning of next year. 3 years left at his $7 million. His contract finally goes from a no trade clause to a modified no trade clause of 3 teams. So if Vlasic picks 3 teams and the Sharks really want to try to trade him, they can. I don't think Vlasic's going anywhere. I think he's really I think he's really found his game again this year. And I think we can point, this will be another fun conversation for the offseason, of pointing to guys who stock improved under David Quinn and guys whose stock kind of went down under David Quinn. Fun conversation to have later on. But Vlasic is a guy where you can be like, okay, this contract isn't as bad as it was, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, compared to where it is now. So you can kind of squint your eyes and look at it and be like, okay, that's fine. All right. Got to get going here a little bit quicker. So below average guys, these guys are, they haven't been consistent. We still just, that's just kind of my, So Andrew Agozzino, 32, he's got 1 year left at a $775,000. He's been a great addition for the Barracuda, but there's a reason why he's played 650 AHL games and has a handful of NHL games. So great breaking case of glass emergency guy if you need to bring him up for a little bit. But I think he's a very, very, very good AHL guy who can play in the NHL if you need him to be, but not somebody I'd probably want to count in for, 50, 60, 70 games type of situation. So Noah Gregor, we all know Noah Gregor. So he's 25. He'll be an RFA. The Sharks will have an interesting decision to do with him. If Noah Gregor could shoot, he would be an NHL, like an average NHL player. Like he does everything else you'd want, right? Penalty kill. He's fast. He forechecks. He does a lot of good things. If the poor man could hit the net every once in a while, we'd be talking about a much different player. Luke Cunnin, forward, 25. He's going to be coming off a torn ACL. Has 1 year left at $2.75 million. It's funny because he shoots really well, but he's just he's a tough guy who can shoot really well. If you could take Cunnin's shooting ability and mix it with Gregor, you would have a really, really good NHL player. But I've made my comments on Luke Cunnin. You could argue he's an average NHL player, but I think he kind of is what it is. Oscar Lindblom, probably, I think, one of my players I was really excited about going into the offseason when the Sharks signed him to where we are now. I think I've soured a ton on him just because of you saw the potential and you just feel bad for what could have been for Lindblom. He's been stuck on the Sharks' fourth line. I don't know there's a reason the Flyers waived him. That they bought him out. The Flyers is not like some juggernaut team. He's got 1 year left on his $2.5 million. I think he will kind of just be what he is, an overpaid fourth line guy right now for the Sharks next season. Steven Lorentz, center, 27. He's got 1 year left on his $1.05 million. He's working his way to be an average NHL guy. I think he's perfect. You've seen the improvement in this year. I think going from kind of felt like a throw in the Brent Burns trade, just to make contracts move some contracts around. Has really established himself with the Sharks, and I think, I don't know if he's playing every night for every NHL team, but he's really found his role with the Sharks. And this time next year, we could be talking about how he's, an average NHL player, kind of a middle six guy. He defends well, great on the PK, all that fun stuff. So Derek Pouliot, again, kind of the Andrew Agozzino type of thing. He's 29. He'll be in UFA next year. I would be very happy with the Sharks to bring him back and have him as your kind of seventh defenseman or your first defenseman, kind of being the guy for a lot of the young, the AHL for the Barracuda, for all the defensive talent they're going to be adding, having him kind of be the leader of that group. I'd be very, very happy with that. And if you need to bring him up for a couple games because somebody gets hurt, Pouliot, I think, is perfectly suited for that. James Reimer, goalie, 35, also a UFA. Last year, I think he was an average goalie. This year, I think he's slipped a ton, and I think, Father Time is maybe starting to catch up with him. So, we'll see. I think he will still be in the league next year. I just don't think he'll be with the Sharks next year, as they try to kind of start looking towards the future a little bit more. So, and then Radim Šimik. Šimik has played well in spurts, I think, especially since his return from injury, has played really well. He's 31. I can't believe he's going to be 31 already. It's time flies. We'll have 1 year left on his $2.25 million deal. But again, I think on most teams, he's probably a seventh defenseman, sixth or seventh defenseman, healthy scratched. And he's been healthy scratched with the Sharks and has been fighting injuries. So hopefully he can stay healthy and kind of, again, move back into being, kind of more of an average NHL player. But, I think Šimik is definitely a fan favorite, but I think you kind of know what you're getting with Šimik. So before we finish up and look at kind of the replacement level players, their situation, and then look at kind of the incomplete players and where I kind of project some of those guys to be, do want to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could just handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. With Indeed, you can find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. If you hate waiting, Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Indeed, they know when you're trying to grow your business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applicants that match your must-have job requirements. So visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application. Pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? Then you need Indeed. All right. Before we finish up here, we're going to discuss kind of the replacement level players. So again, these are guys who are kind of those tweener guys between AHL, NHL guys. You can kind of just find a lot of these guys. So, and then we're going to talk about the incompletes. So just guys we just haven't seen enough yet to kind of put them in a bucket right now. Let's go start with the replacement guys. So Kyle Criscuolo played a game with the Sharks. As a center, 31 UFA. Again, I would be very happy the Sharks brought him back to play with the Barracuda. Ever since he was traded for Lord Jasper, he really found his niche with is it niche or niche? I don't know. I always say niche, but I think it's niche. Anyway, he's really found his spot with the Barracuda. Has really kind of found his scoring game again. So again, if you need kind of a break class in case of emergency type of guy. Aaron Dell, I think, is 34. I can't believe the world's okay. His goal, he's already kind of getting up there, but he'll be a UFA. It'll be interesting to see because if you're having potentially E2 Makanemi Straussman, and then the Sharks are expected to sign Magnus Krona, that goalie room's getting a little crowded down the Barracuda. So they're going to have some decisions to make there. Jonah Gadovich, who's 24, RFA. I like Gadovich. I think he's got some, I think there's something there. He could definitely move up to like as a below average NHL player. He's definitely, you've seen the improvements with him, but struggled to stay healthy this year. So RFA Sharks have, if they want to bring him back, they can bring him back and it won't cost them very much. So next, Andreas Johnson, forwards 28, part of the Timo Meier deal, UFA. I think it was a get these salaries to match. He's definitely not worth the $3+ million he's making this year. I think you can find guys like Andreas Johnson just off the street. Capo Kakinen, he's struggled this year. And, I think we've seen flashes of him play really well, and we've seen just downright terrible play from Capo Kakinen. He's 27, 1 year left on his $2.75 million deal. Next year's going to be a big year for Capo Kakinen if he can kind of prove why the Sharks traded for him, and, as they continue to kind of search for their goalie of the future. So I think it's going to be a big offseason for Capo, big year next year for him to move. I mean, when was the last time the Sharks had we had the James Reimer NHL average season 2 years ago. It'd be nice to have a couple of these NHL average players in goal for a while. So Jacob McDonald, 31 year left on his deal, $762,000. I think he's been a perfectly cromulent defenseman. You can play him up and forward as he did the other night. He's there. So other replacement level guys, CJ Cease, forward, 29 UFA. Again, happy to have him back on the Barracuda next year. Evgeny Svechnikov, he's one you could talk me into being a below average NHL player. My case was he was on the streets until September. He's 26. He'll be an RFA. So if the Sharks want to bring him back, it won't cost them very much. But he's had some flashes this year. But again, my argument is he was literally unsigned until September. So Jeffrey Viel, 26, sneaky, again, it's kind of sneaky up there for Jeffrey Viel. He's going to be a UFA. He's looked good in spurts, but it's been a couple years now, and he hasn't been able to kind of steal one of these NHL jobs. So I think he is a replacement level player right now. All right. The fun ones. So the incomplete grades. So these are a lot of the young guys. I went in alphabetical order by last name, if you haven't noticed by now. So Daniil Gushchin, the forward, 21. He has 1 year left, $826,000 deal. Was that 2 years? I should double check that. I'm checking that on the fly. I could have screwed up on the graphics, which it wouldn't be the first time or the last time. So Gushchin. Sorry, he's going to have 2 years left. I screwed up on the graphics. My bad. 2 years left at $826,000. I think all said and done, I think he's going to be a quality player. I think he's going to be one of those top 6 guys. Potential could, if everything goes right, flirt with a franchise cornerstone. But I think it's safe to say Gushchin's going to land as a quality player where you're going to have, he's going to be a mainstay for the Sharks for years to come. Martin Kaut, the forward that the Sharks got part of the Ryan Merkley trade, 24 RFA. You've seen a little bit of flashes, but I think right now he's just kind of replacement level, especially since he's 24. Hasn't been able to kind of stick. I know the Avalanche are a much deeper organization than the Sharks, but again, he hasn't really stuck with the Sharks right now. And you see, even with all the with everyone kind of hurt and out and kind of the end of the season here, he's not getting a run. And I think that kind of tells you what the organization thinks about him. So doesn't mean that he can't maybe move into a, below average player, but I think right now he's just I think he's a replacement level player at the moment. So, Nikolai Konechny, the defenseman, 25. Next year starts the beginning of a 2 year, $1.25 million. I think he's gonna be an average NHL defenseman. He's worked really hard to come back from injuries. You hope that it's not kind of like an Oscar Lindblom type situation where you look back and think about what could have been if he wasn't dealing with all these injuries type of situation. But I think him coming back this year and playing really strong down the end of the stretch. I think he's well on his way to being an average NHL defenseman. So we'll definitely take that. The fun one, Thomas Bordeleau, forward 21, will have 1 year left at his $916,000 deal. So he's going to be gunning for a new contract after next year. I think he will be in that quality player, kind of end up in that quality player, much like a Logan Couture type of guy. Logan Couture, Tomas Hertl, I don't know, maybe not to those guys were franchise cornerstones at one point. I don't think he's going to max out at that. But I think he's going to be sticking around with the Sharks for a very, very long time and be a very big piece of what they do going forward. So Nick Cicek, 23, 1 year left at his $835,000 deal. I think he's a replacement level defenseman. If he's your seventh defenseman that you have to, get plays every couple nights, or someone gets hurt and he needs kind of a run, I think he could be doing a lot worse than that. So you've seen him continue to grow and develop. But I think he's going to start to get passed by some of the increased talent along the blue line here with San Jose. So William Eklund will be 20 when the season starts. He turns 21 mid-October. So we'll have 3 years left at on his ELC. I rate him a franchise cornerstone player. I might be shooting a little high here, but I think he is going to be one of those players he's going to be one of the big names of, if the Sharks ever do anything in this new era, he's going to be one of the key contributors to it. Being the seventh overall pick, we've seen flashes of it. We've seen a consistent play in the AHL. We've seen flashes in the NHL. I think next year, I know he's going to be coming off shoulder surgery, but I expect him to fully recover. I expect him to hit the ground running next year, secure an NHL job coming out of training camp. And I think we really see William Eklund and why he's going to be special next year. So you can fight me on if you don't think William Eklund's a franchise cornerstone of this franchise. So, all right, we're down to the last four. So Eetu Makiniemi, goalie, 24 RFA, of course, part of the Brent Burns trade. Below average, and again, that's my below average thinking for goalies is you're kind of a backup, right? I can see him playing, kind of 30, 35 games a year, being a quality backup, but I don't know if he's ever, a 40, 50, 55 starter kind of guy, NHL average type of goalie. So, and he's dealt with injuries now, two injuries in the past 2 seasons that have shut his season down. So, yeah, little worrisome there, especially now with Strauss-Mann, Magnus Krona, et cetera, et cetera. Jacob Peterson, the Sharks got in the Scott Reedy trade, 24 RFA. I think he's going to work his way into an average NHL player. He was close for me moving him out of here just because of his time with the Dallas Stars. He basically played his entire rookie season and has spent the last year on their AHL team. I think a change of scenery is going to do him the world of wonders, and you see him starting to kind of click with the Sharks. And I think the Sharks, this might be a rare win-win trade for both teams, where both teams kind of look back and go, yep, we liked how this trade turned out. But I think the Sharks really might have found something with Jacob Peterson, like I talked about yesterday. So, and then the last two, Henry Thrun, the defenseman that the Sharks got from Anaheim, out of Harvard, 22, 1 year left on his $912,000 deal. So he will also be gunning for a new contract next year. I think he's going to work himself into being another just average NHL player. And again, having average NHL defensemen, that's especially from what we've seen the past couple of years. I would gladly take that from Henry Thrun. He could be one of those guys where maybe you're looking at an above average NHL player or a quality guy, but I'm going to be a little more conservative. I think he's going to be an average NHL player. He already looks the part so far. So maybe this time at next year, I might be, wow, look at Henry Thrun. Look how amazing he was. So, and then finally, Fabian Zetterlund, who the Sharks acquired in the Timo Meier deal. Forward, 24, will be an RFA. I haven't been thoroughly impressed so far with his performance in San Jose. His ice time has gone down. He played 8 minutes against Colorado the other night. It was one game, but I know there's a lot of factors, new team, late in the season, all that stuff. So I'm going to try to not jump to too many conclusions. Maybe an off season in San Jose, get comfortable with everything. But right now, it's just he's looking below average-ish to me. So I that's kind of where I have him right now. I think he could be a perfectly cromulent third or fourth line winger for you, but as of right now, he's gotten opportunities in the top 6 and hasn't done much. And he's been playing a lot of bottom 6 minutes right now. So we shall see with Mr. Zetterlund. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry, it ran a little bit long, but I thought it was a fun exercise. If you guys think I'm an idiot, I'm sure you guys will definitely let me know if I'm an idiot. So I think, I tried to be fair. I think you can get me on the Eklund one if you want to get me on the Eklund one. Some of the guys, you can pick some nits with me if you'd like. But I think I did a good job of. I'm patting myself on the back. But I think I tried to kind of be fair and put them where I think they're going to either be or kind of end up for some of these players. So let me know if you liked it. Leave a review, especially on Apple. I would really appreciate it. If you missed yesterday's episode, just want to let you know next week there'll be episodes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. No episodes Thursday and Friday. I'll be in Zion. I've had this vacation on the books for a little while. No episodes, but I'll make it up for you guys in the last 2 weeks of April. So plenty more draft coverage stuff coming up. Plenty of fun. The off-season content. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. So that'll be it. Make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. Follow along for free as well on YouTube as well. That's where all the episodes come out first. If you're one of those people like to watch right away. Thank you guys for listening. Part of Locked On. Cover your team every day. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Follow the show Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Locked On Sharks. And until tomorrow. Bye, friends.